Hello and welcome to Locojano podcast. My name is Srishti, host for today's session. Today we are going to discuss a very important act, that is the Prevention of Sexual Harassment, or the POSH Act. It was enacted in 2013 to address the issue of sexual harassment at workplace. However, even after 10 years of the act's coming into force, there are reports of serious lapses and uncertainty regarding its implementation. To discuss this act in depth, we are joined by very special guests today, Dr.Parul Gurudev and Leeza Singh, who are partners at AD-roit LinkS, a firm that provides transformative legal solutions encompassing a diverse range of legal domains, from workplace compliance, employment law, to POSH, POXO, diversity and inclusion, women empowerment, and much more. So, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Parul and Leeza.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much,
Thank you, Srishti. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And my first question to both of you is, can you just explain to our audience your inspiring journeys?
Hi everyone. I am Dr. Parul Gurudev. As an advocate, I had always been passionate about dealing with the legal solutions, giving legal solutions to my clients. And apart from that, I am also an academician. I have been recently awarded with PhD degree in environmental laws. And I have dealt with many other cases like transfer of property, matrimonial matters, the banking matters, and consumer related matters. And when it comes to academics, I had been a visiting faculty with Amity Law School from past 4 5 years, and I have been always keen to educate the next generation lawyers. So that is how I have, and now we are together with AD-roit LinkS as a partner. I am with AD-roit LinkS. So now,
Yeah. So, Shrishti, as far as I'm concerned, I'm Leeza Dutta Singh. I have been a corporate lawyer for 17 plus years. And during this entire professional journey and the passion to do law after I completed my graduation, just a brief background. I come from the northeast part of this country. I am from the state of Assam, and in my state, when it comes to women, women actually are considered to be as at par with men. And this inspiration of taking up a subject like this, I would say for me it was built from the very beginning. My father was in Indian Air Force, and when I was in 11th standard, I had to travel from my native town to the to the capital, that is Guwahati, and we used to travel sometimes by the night service buses. And my father always taught me to stand up for myself, raise a voice. He always said that, irrespective wherever you are, because when you are at that at that age, and you are vulnerable in everywhere. I mean, a girl of 17, 18 years is vulnerable everywhere, be it the city buses that we travel to college, be it the night buses that we travel from our native to to the capital to do studies. Anywhere we are vulnerable. So one thing that I understand and learned from the very beginning is raise your voice. The moment you feel uncomfortable, anybody is making you feel uncomfortable, raise the finger, because I have done that personally. I have done that when I was in college, when I was in school, when I was in junior college. And I also noticed that when I have raised the voice, that created a protection for me. That's the first thing. All right. So raising the voice is very, very important. And taking that inspiration, when now that I have been doing this post trainings for a long time now, and working in corporates for such a long time, I understood that every woman, for that matter, or everybody, in fact, in today's environment, it is no more we cannot say only women are vulnerable. Everyone, all, I mean, all genders
All
are
genders
vulnerable in today's day. So the most important thing, first of all, is to raise a finger. Secondly, we need to understand and identify. How do we understand? How do we identify that whatever has happened to us is not right, and we need to raise our voices awareness? So with that in mind, this journey started. So that is how my journey started, I would say.
That was really inspiring to hear both of your journeys. And my next question to you, Dr. Parul, is that can you briefly explain about the background of the POSH Act?
So, as we know, our Indian Constitution provides several rights to the women's, like a right to equality, right to live with dignity, right to practice any profession of your choice. So, though we had these kind of rights, still there were so many incidences where the women's, under the environment where they were working, they were not protected. So in 1992, there was a lady called Bhavri Devi. She was a Dalit social worker in Rajasthan. There was a place called Bhartari. So there she was working for the women empowerment, for the dowry prohibition, for the child marriages. She was working from the state government of Rajasthan. So after in there was a Gujjar family where she stopped, where she tried to stop the child marriage of a 9-month-old girl. So there, the family members of that male family members, they felt insulted that how can a Dalit woman stop us from getting our child married? So there, what they did for taking the revenge, they raped Bhavri Devi in the fields, and there they gang raped her. So here the state government, they just washed off their hands, saying that Bhavri Devi was not raped during the working hours, or she was not raped at the workplace. So there you can say that there were so many NGOs, and apart from other NGOs, there was an NGO called Vishakha. They took up this matter to the Supreme Court, and where Supreme Court, they raised certain you can say guidelines regarding the protection of women at the workplace, because Supreme Court said in this matter that a woman who is working for the government in while going to different areas, like going to different homes for protection of the children's, for dowry prohibition, that becomes the workplace of that woman. It is not necessary that there should be an office that could be called as a workplace, but the woman who is working as a social worker, her work is to go to the different places and protect these rights. So there, these places become the workplace of that women. So after this matter, there were certain guidelines that were issued by the Supreme Court, and these guidelines were known as the Vishakha guidelines, because Vishakha was the NGO who took up this matter to the Supreme Court. So the matter was Vishakha versus Union of India. So now here, after this matter, there were several guidelines that were provided by the Supreme Court. Now, under this, the very first guidelines was the definition of the sexual harassment. What is the definition of sexual harassment? What comes under the sexual harassment? So, any sexually colored remark or any physical contact or any other unwelcome behavior that that has a conduct of sexual nature, that will come under the sexual harassment. Secondly, Supreme Court said it is the duty of the employer. It is the duty of the employer to take the actions so that these kind of sexual harassment incidences be prevented. So it is the duty of the employer to make an internal complaint committee, so that any aggrieved women can come and complain about that sexual harassment. Next, there should be the Supreme Court said that there should be a complaint mechanism. That means guidelines had been given that how a woman can approach to this internal complaint committee and file her complaint. And the Supreme Court said that there should be a confidentiality. Confidentiality should be there as to safeguard the employee and the employer both, so that the employer anyone, if any woman who is coming and complaining, she should be safeguarded. So that was the main aim of this Vishaka guidelines. And one more thing, they also said that whatever inquiry that will be conducted by the internal complaint committee, that inquiry should be a time bound inquiry. So a time limit should be provided to these inquiries.
That was really interesting. Now my question to you, Leeza, is that recently Delhi court observed that clear-cut guidelines regarding POSH Act implementation is missing, and persons who are members of the Internal Complaints Committee lack the legal knowledge. At the same time, even organizations usually remain reluctant to entertain such complaints of sexual harassment. According to you, what are the key challenges when it comes to POSH Act implementation?
Very rightly put, Srishti. So, when it comes to implementation of POSH Act and the compliance is laid down, to understand, POSH is a very, very strongly drafted act. All right, it came into effect in 2013, and it's been 10 years now. We are at 2023, and not a single amendment was needed. The beauty of this act is even during the COVID period, when most of the people were working from home, the definition of work from home need not be amended. All these provisions have been laid down in the act. Now, when it is such a beautifully drafted act where everything is covered, yet when we come to the practical aspect, when we come to its implementation, we see that there is minimal, I would say, minimal compliances. And what is the reason for this? The reason for this, most importantly, is the lack of awareness, because people are not aware what a workplace is. The definition of workplace under the POSH Act not only covers the companies, the corporates, the factories, the establishments, the sports facilities, hospitals, it also covers our dwelling houses. How many people I would be aware of this fact? Why our houses are also a workplace? Because the house help who comes to our house to perform domestic work, for them our dwelling houses is a workplace. That is what the law has provided, but there is no awareness about it. And even if there are a little bit of awareness, there is lack of training. Even if people are a little bit aware of it, the employees are not being trained well. And the reason behind this is maybe there is a need or there is a gap where competent people are not taking up this particular aspect and delving into it and passing on the important legislation that has been laid up by this act. So that is one another factor: lack of training. Thirdly, there is also lack of that there is also fear of retaliation. So whenever there is a complaint regarding any incidences of sexual harassment, there is also this fear that the complainant, in fact, could be subjected to some kind of retaliation by the organization, by the supervisor, or by the accused person. That is a fear of retaliation. Another factor is ineffective grievance redressal mechanism. And when I say ineffective grievance system, is when there is an incidence of sexual harassment, the employees or the complainant should know who to approach. Who should the person approach to in order to raise a complaint? Now, usually, if the employees are not aware, the complainant might, discuss the matter to another colleague, which is not the right thing to do. May complain it to the supervisor. Yes, that is at least some kind of redressal, or the supervisor. And in that case, is the supervisor supposed to handle the matter? Is another thing. Now, the supervisor is not supposed to handle that matter. Every organization should have their own internal committee. And why internal committee? Because it is a committee which would have minimum 3 plus an external member, 4-member committee. It will be a neutral committee where it is their responsibility to understand what the complaint is, to also see whether it has any, the complaint, whether it's a fictitious or frivolous complaint, or there is, there is some you could say genuine, case of sexual harassment. And then it is the duty of the internal committee to take on the proceedings within the stipulated time as per the act. How, and also most importantly, the internal committee has the power of a civil court. And if we look into the power of a civil court, just imagine how much a judge sitting in a civil court would know about the law. They have done their LLB, they have prepared extensively for a judiciary exam, and then they become the judges in a civil court. And similar kind of power has been given to the IC in terms of calling for the witnesses, taking evidences, cross examination, and preparing the final report, and adjudicating whether the accused should there is a case of sexual harassment or not. But are the IC actually trained in that manner in every organization? So that is one reason. The IC needs to be aware of what are their rights, what are their duties, how they are supposed to conduct the investigation in a very, and they should follow the principle of natural justice as well when they are conducting any such inquiry. So all these things should be, the IC should be trained on this in order to have an effective mechanism. The supervisor should know that if there is a case of sexual harassment and the reportee has come to the supervisor is not supposed to adjudicate on it. The supervisor's duty is direct that aggrieved person to the IC, because IC would be the right team, the right people to in fact investigate the matter. Similarly, if the complainant goes to a human resource personnel, the human resource personnel should again direct the person to the IC. In fact, the level of awareness should be such that even if the complainant goes to a colleague, the colleague should also direct to the IC. So that is the level of awareness that is actually required, in order for an effective redressal mechanism. And then another, you could say another disadvantage, or you could say, another area why the POSH Act has not been implemented is lack of support system. If the complainant goes and discusses it with another colleague, the person doesn't know there is always a chance of being judged. The colleague might judge that person. That fear of being tagged, right? So that is another reason why this is not implemented well. So this awareness and training is very important, where it is the people should be made aware within an organization. If a colleague of you who is not aware of this, and maybe the person who the complainant who is coming up with this kind of complaint is a very new employee or is an intern, have not gone through the training sessions within the organization. I'm saying that let's for example suppose that the organization have trainings in place, policy in place. However, for some reason, in big organizations people come and go, right? So maybe the intern or the new employee is not aware of an IC at the very moment. Now what needs to be done is, when you are recruiting a person, the POSH compliance should be made a part of the employment agreement, that there is a POSH policy in place in the organization and you are duty bound to go through that policy. And when you are accepting the offer letter and you are accepting the employment contract, you are also accepting that you have read that there is a POSH policy, you are aware of it, and you acknowledge that you have read, what the policy of the company is. That is a mechanism to make aware of the people who are new or who are unaware, and that is how companies can protect themselves and create the awareness as well. And when I'm saying about support system, the employees or the colleagues should be made aware that if somebody is coming to you, just do not judge them, listen to them, because there are certain times when a colleague listening to your complaint also gives you a sense of comfort. Listen to it, be empathetic, and then say, you know what, you should go and complain this in writing to the IC. That is the kind of support system that can be created to make this effective. So lack of support system is another area why this is not implemented. And then there is also this compliance issues. So certain companies, certain organizations, certain establishments are either not aware or are careless. I would say they are careless, because it is every employer's responsibility, not only as in terms of the POSH Act as legislation, the laid down in the POSH Act, to provide a safe and secured environment. Even the constitution of the country, provides that every person, in every citizen of this country, has a right to livelihood and have a life to dignity. All right. So all of this should actually be taken seriously, even by the establishments, the companies, or you could say the employer. If this kind of awareness is this widespread awareness is there in terms of the implementation of the POSH Act, then all of the concerns that we see right now, where we see that since at least last couple of years, the high courts and the Supreme Courts are coming strongly against the non-implementation of the POSH Act, because we see that in every spheres of life, be it the sports academy, be it the case of women, female wrestlers been subjected to sexual harassment, to bank employees been subjected to sexual harassment, to school students been subjected to sexual harassments, and especially after the Me Too movement, these cases are coming up now. It is kind of you could say, a small opening to the Pandora's box. So this needs to be addressed timely.
That was really interesting to see. Now, you were talking about the sports organizations and how Supreme Court is coming down heavily on those organizations. So recently, Supreme Court observed that in a report that 16 out of 30 national sports federations do not have an internal complaints committee. And even those organizations who do have, there is no mandated number of members, or even they lack an external member as prescribed by the law. So what do you think could be done to improve the whole situation in sports organizations for POSH Act implementation?
In fact, you're right. When it comes to sports organization, you could see a clear matrix, and the matrix of power, because there is a coach and there are trainees. All right. So then we also see that when it comes to sexual harassment, it is often seen in a scenario of matrix of power. Why? Because the aggrieved person is subjected to several other things, not only not only sexual harassment, but the aggrieved person, or in this matrix of power, the usually what we see is female athletes. They come from very humble background, most of them, and sometimes they are they see that in order to grow, they need to abide by what the coaches have been telling them, or the instructions of the coaches. And then there is a very they are in a very vulnerable state when it comes to sports authorities, sports organizations, because, as I said, there is a matrix of power. Then sometimes it is also seen that most of these coaches, most of the trainers are men. And because another reason is, for some reason, the authorities who are responsible to run this kind of organization, especially where sports activities takes place, the punishment is not being the punishment for such kind of acts of sexual harassment are not at par to what it should be, so that it becomes a deterrent for anybody to take advantage of their position as a trainer, as a coach, as a guide. So in order for the sports authorities to have a more safer place, firstly, if there is any complaint of sexual harassment, the investigation should be expedited. We see that in one of the there is one of the cases where there is this coach. I think it is a 2014 case where there was a complaint of sexual harassment, where the coach groped this girl and then kissed her, and it took 3 years for the investigation to get complete. And by the time the investigating authority came to a conclusion, the person has already retired as a coach. So justice delayed is justice denied. So that is kind of a deterrent, because if it is not expedited and is not taken seriously, then in that case, even if there are instances of sexual harassment, the sports person or the aggrieved person would be reluctant to complain about it, because at the end of the day, they are also thinking about their career, they are also thinking about the progress. Because there is no quick redressal system, that is why that becomes a deterrent for somebody to complain about it, and it is put under the carpet. That is one reason. So in order to handle this, what the authorities should do is they should have they should adopt the POSH Act. Everything is laid down very well in the POSH Act, where they say that there should be an IC should be trained, the sports personnel should be trained, and in fact, the investigation should happen within 90 days, as laid down in the POSH Act. I mean, whatever is laid down in the acts, if the authorities, particularly if we are talking about the sports industry, if these are implemented in letter and spirit, not as a checkbox, then I think most of these issues can be handled.
That was an interesting take on the sports organizations. My next question to you, Dr. Parul, is that despite the availability of legal recourse under the POSH Act, like many incidents of sexual harassment goes unreported due to lack of awareness, lack of confidence, and inefficient execution of complaints mechanism. So what do you think could be done to improve the whole situation in general?
Okay, so as you have rightly said that we have a POSH Act, which is such a good act, and apart from having this act, there is a lack of, or you can say there is underreporting. Like people fear, the women, they fear while reporting, and because of these things, the underreporting, such kind of activities are increasing. Such sexual harassment activities are increasing. And to avoid this underreporting, there could be so many things that could be done. So first of all, as Leeza has rightly said, that there is a lack of awareness. So for increasing such kind of awareness, there could be a public awareness campaigns. Public awareness campaigns could be run through, you can say, a workshop or a seminar or a social media platform, like right now as we are talking about this through a podcast. So such kind of awareness sessions could be conducted for the, you can say, for the organizations, for the institutions, at the school level, at the college level, so that the not only the employee but the employer also gets sensitized about these things. Then secondly is training and sensitization. So because there is a lack of awareness, there is also a lack of training also. There are not right persons who are training the people, and there is a need for a good kind of trainers. There should be a good trainer and who could sensitize these employers and employees, right? So the employer and employee both need to be trained and sensitized regarding this POSH Act. Then the clear reporting mechanism, as Leeza rightly said, that there is no clear mechanism as to who should we report. Okay, so you can say that when you talk about this reporting, the females are reporting to their supervisor, but the supervisor is not the right person to report about these things. There should be a proper internal complaint committee to whom they could report. And such reporting system could be a formal, informal, or an anonymous reporting system could also be taken into consideration. If suppose someone does not want to give their name, if any the female, they do not want to give their name, so there should be a mechanism so that an anonymous complaint can also be reported against that sexual harassment. Then the next thing is, as we know, that confidentiality and the protection. So if a woman who is sexually harassed, and if she comes up with a complaint, she could be protected by that organization and the employer, that whatever has happened to you, they will be protected in any manner. And these all these incidences, all that reporting and the investigation will be a confidential thing, and there should be a confidentiality clause, you can say that.
Yeah.
And there should be these kind of awareness, or you can say these kind of internal complaint committee investigation should be confidential. Now, as I said, that there should be a internal complaint committee, and there are so many schools, colleges, and as Leeza said about the sports authority, there is no internal complaint committee where the female can go and complain about these sexual harassments. So an internal complaint committee should be there, and the government should be so prompt that if there is no internal complaint committee, there should be a fine imposed on these organizations, so that there is, you can say, there should be a deterrent effect. Or if they do not have such kind of internal complaint committee, there should be a committee that could be checked by the government. Okay. Then the legal support system and the guidance should be there. As we know, as I told you, that there is no guidance, clear-cut guidance is not provided to these organizations. And we have reached to so many schools also, they are not ready to give such kind of trainings.
Yeah.
Because they do not want us to even talk about these trainings, because they feel that agar aisa nahi ho raha hai, so this incident could happen. If till date there is no incidents, and now if we are going to have such kind of trainings or awareness sessions, then the women can come up and they can report these complaints.
Yeah.
So that is also there, because there is no guidance, clear guidance to them, that no, we are not coming here to provoke anyone. We are just coming here to guide you as to what the POSH Act is and how the internal complaint committee should be made. What are the you should make a clear-cut guidelines as to what the sexual harassment is and how that could be taken up. And there should be, as I said, that there should be a regular audit and a compliance check. That means regular audit should be there through any, you can say, a government, or there should be a you can say in Noida. Recently, the collector has given this directions that the factories and organizations who do not have internal complaint committee, they will be charged with 50,000 rupees fine. And if there is a second time offense, or if there is a regular this kind of thing that they are not having this internal complaint committee, then the license of that organization could also be cancelled. So such kind of, you can say, the compliance check or the audit, regular audit should be there. Then secondly, there should also be a mandatory reporting for employers. So as Leeza said, that whenever you are signing any contract, employer contract, there should be employer-employee contract. The mandatory reporting for employers should also be made. That means when you draft the contract, this kind of clause should be added, that whenever you face such kind of problem, the reporting should be made compulsory. Then as we said, that there's whenever you're talking about such kind of organization, there should be a monitoring and a research that should be made as to are these organizations, institutions, or these schools and colleges, are they really complying with the POSH Act or no? Whether they have this internal complaint committee, whether they are submitting their report regularly to the government or no. So all these things should be done. So then only the under-reporting will not be there. Then only the females will feel safe while reporting these kind of matters.
Absolutely. And to just add to what Parul has mentioned, specifically with respect to in education institutes, UGC have also come, clear-cut guidelines, which is like POSH UGC rules 2015. And there the UGC has laid clear-cut guidelines that in any educational institute, specifically because UGC deals with higher education institutes, there should be a zero tolerance policy when it comes to any matters of sexual harassment. So it is not only something which has to be complied with by the staff, teachers, professors, faculties of a higher education institute, even the students who are studying in that higher education institute come under the ambit and protection of the POSH Act. And a very good way of protecting and creating a safe and secured environment in an institution is to have a zero tolerance policy, which should be gender neutral. And when we say gender neutral, because see, POSH is specifically in the definition of POSH in section 2, it defines aggrieved women. It does not say aggrieved person. So this is a protection for the women. However, no law says that you cannot widen the scope or ambit. And how you can do that? You can do that by having a policy which is gender neutral. Because as per POSH, even a woman can complain against any other accused who is a woman. If a woman is being sexually harassed by another woman, the POSH Act gives that woman that right to complain against the other women. And in terms of implementation, the education institutes, the higher education authorities, in fact, for that matter, even organizations, companies, factories, they can all adopt a gender neutral policy. That when there is any such instances, the IC will be investigating that. And then to add to it, why an IC? We also need to probe into why an IC. This could make, because under the IPC and under the CRPC, again we have protection. But why not go to the court and go to the IC? The purpose of this act is to resolve such incidences within the four corners of the organization or four corners of the establishment. Because when such incidences happen, it brings it tarnishes the reputation of the establishment, as well as it is detrimental to the accused, and to some extent even the complainant is judged by the society. So in order to resolve such cases with amicably, and if needed be with punishment when the offenses are serious, but within the four corners where there is a confidentiality maintained and due justice is given, and it's an expedited proceeding where everything takes place, starting from receiving the complaint to investigating to finally deciding whether the accused is the offender or not. That entire proceeding happens within 90 days. So this POSH Act gives a very good platform where you do not have to languish in the court and run around from pillar to post. There is enough protection so that the matter is resolved within the four corners of the organization. And when this is adopted by any organization, industry, higher education institute, most of these things gets resolved. And when there is a zero tolerance policy, when people come to know that there has been incidences, the IC had adjudicated upon it as per the laid down rules and policies, that itself becomes detrimental to somebody who has there are sometimes behavioral issues as well. Some people are of the nature that you could in fact term that as preparator. They look for opportunities, so this kind of provisions in place actually becomes a detriment to even such person who intentionally does it. I'm not saying that everybody does this intentionally. There are certain instances where we have seen in our practical when we are taking part in the proceedings in IC, we have seen that it is not always that somebody is doing it intentionally. Sometimes some people may not be aware that whatever action that person has done was unwelcome by the aggrieved women. When it comes to POSH, by the aggrieved women. So in that case, an awareness is important. In that case, making the person aware that what you have done is not what you're supposed to do when you are working in an organization because you are professional, that itself is a detriment. And then observing that the rest of the people in the organization also comes to know that, okay, my organization is serious about this kind of offenses, and we should not be involved in any such kind of unwanted activities.
That was really interesting series of suggestions that you both gave. Now my next question is, like, we're talking about gender neutrality. Now
Yeah,
the act is silent on those members of the workforce apart from women who might be facing sexual harassment at workplace. For instance, LGBTQ communities. So
right.
what do you think would be done better to improve gender equality for this POSH Act?
So, if we talk about gender neutrality when it comes to adopting the provisions of the POSH Act, as I already mentioned, organizations can always have a gender neutral policy. And that is what we always advise our clients to do. Because POSH does not say that you cannot have a gender neutral policy. Although the POSH Act, the provisions of the POSH Act are applied to protect, the safety of a women. However, every organization can have a gender neutral policy, and in such instances, the IC can investigate on any complaint received. All right, so that is one way of addressing it. Now, specifically coming to LGBTQ plus community, we see that the Constitution of India has provided fundamental rights to all of its citizens. All right, so when it comes to all of its citizens, we have the right to equality, we have right against discrimination, we have right to freedom, we have right to life and personal liberty provided under Article 14, 15, 19, and 21 respectively. And this provisions actually under the constitution is for a wholesome life. But when we talk about the LGBTQ community or the lives of the transgenders in India, that is anything but wholesome. The National Human Rights Commission study on human rights of transgender, it says that as the third gender stated that the scope of several legal provisions is very limited, and it does not cover social protection, it does not cover health care, it does not cover education, it does not cover access to goods and services, and making transgender people very, very vulnerable. No, in fact, it took so many years, and only in 2013, the Supreme Court of India recognized transgender as a third gender and affirmed the fundamental rights under the Constitution of India. Because prior to that, the transgenders were forced to identify themselves in either of the binary gender, that is male or female. So we see that as of now, there have been changes. Of course, it is evolving, and after finally the Supreme Court in Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India also decriminalized homosexuality. So the laws and policies of India are gradually evolving to recognize the rights of the transgender and LGBTQ plus community. The recognition of rights of transgender on one hand are not given to them the remedy under the anti-sexual harassment at workplace, but addressing this when it comes to including them as under the POSH Act. What as somebody who is passionate about this subject, and Parul and I taking up these matters, and of course suggested by various other organizations, what can be suggested is maybe an amendment to the POSH Act, where rather than talking about aggrieved women under Section 2 of the POSH Act as defined, maybe we can call aggrieved person. So if we include aggrieved person rather than aggrieved women, that itself will address addressing the concerns of the LGBTQ plus community as well. So for now, until and unless that implementation does not happen, the best that every organization, when I say organization, it does not only mean corporates, I mean every workplace, they can have a gender neutral policy to protect everybody's right to live life with dignity.
Even the males who face such kind of harassments through these gender neutral policy, these males and the other community people can also be safeguarded.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really interesting to see. Now, you were talking about workplaces, like different kinds of workplace. So, coming to a workplace like politics, many women are actually very active in politics today, and it also means they might be vulnerable to sexual harassment too. So, do you think that political organizations who are specifically registered with Election Commission must be actually considered a workplace under the POSH Act so that these women could be protected?
So yes, first of all, when you talk about political parties, whether these political parties they come under the criteria of POSH Act, first of all depend upon that whether they are registered or no. If they are registered, first of all, we need to see whether these political parties they come under the definition of workplace, because these workplace as defined in the workplace that is defined under POSH Act, it means any place or an organization which carries on its business, trade, occupation, and it also includes government and non-government organizations, institutions, and other organizations. So yes, if we talk about these political parties, secondly we have to see whether these political parties, whether they have an office or whether they work somewhere else. So first of all, if they have a registered office and the workers who are coming there, the members who are coming there and working there, whether they are covered under the workers, okay, employees. So if they are covered under the employees, then yes, this could be considered as a you can say it could be covered under the POSH Act. Secondly, the registered political parties who have their office, physical office or location where they conduct their activities, and they have individuals who come and work over there, so they might be subjected or they might be protected under the POSH Act. They should be, you can say, protected under the POSH Act, because yes, they are also coming there and working. So they should be protected. And the IC, that is the Internal Complaint Committee, ICC, should also be made under these political parties. Every political party should have their own internal complaint committee. So any women who is coming there and participating in such kind of political activities, when sexual harassment or any kind of activity, unwelcomed activity is done to them, they can complain to these internal complaint committees. Next, however, we should the legal experts or the authorities, they should also evaluate the circumstances whether the sexual harassment has been made to these women political leaders or no. So when you say that talking about political parties, holding them accountable for such activities, yes, if that is made, the political parties are covered under the POSH Act. Yes, there could be, you can say, that is an important step in promoting the POSH Act. As Leeza said, that when you are talking about the other community, LGBT community or any other community to be included, yes, the political parties should also be included. In my opinion, they should also be included in the POSH Act as a workplace, because yes, nowadays the women are actively participating in the politics, and they are going there and working for the community, working for the society. They are participating. So there, the political party organization and office or wherever, as the Bhavri Devi matter, what she did, she was going to the houses and protecting the children from getting married, that Bal Vivah. So here also I could suggest that yes, the political parties should also be considered as a workplace, so that women who are participating in such activities, they could be safeguarded.
Absolutely. Because see, whenever a woman is joining a politics as a member of the political party or the organization she is working with, it is a work for her. It is her profession. It is her occupation. A woman who is involved in political activities, she does not have any other profession. She does not have any other occupation. All right. So if we look into the definition of workplace, aggrieved women, employer, employee, as defined in the POSH Act, I think the political parties fairly and squarely falls under the ambit of POSH Act. And the compliances under POSH Act should be implemented even when it comes to political parties, because nobody is immune to any kind of such harassment. And it is imperative on every organization to ensure that whatever activities they are doing should they should be able to provide a safe and secured environment.
That was really interesting angle And now, before I conclude the session, I just want to ask your concluding remarks on this topic for today.
Sure. I would say to every woman out there who's listening to this podcast, every woman, of any age group, be vocal. When it comes to safeguarding yourself, your dignity, your mental peace, because what happens is when you experience any such instances or incidences, you lose mental peace, right? So the most important thing is raise your finger. That's very important. Raise your finger. The moment you raise your finger, you have done at least 50% of the work. If you raise your finger, it's very unlikely that the other person would again try to intimidate you or take advantage of whatever the situation is. So raising the finger is the first thing that you need to do. I would say that. You start that. If that is the start, then definitely there would be a positive outcome of that action. That is very important.
And from my side, I would say the employers or any organization, they should have such kind of policies that if any kind of sexual harassment incident happen and a woman is raising her voice or if raising her finger, then she should be protected. It should not be that she could be she could be more harassed. Okay, she should not be judged. So whenever you are raising a finger, any female is raising a finger, it is the duty of an employer to protect her, to make such kind of rules that she is protected and a justice is delivered to that woman. Okay, so that is it.
Stronger regulations and implementation. We already have strong regulations under the POSH Act, under IPC, under CRPC, and the rights given under the Constitution. Implementation is equally very, very important.
And the execution mechanism
Yes,
also.
absolutely.
That is also very important.
Absolutely. If it is implemented and if it is executed, if there is a fair redressal, because the POSH itself says, it is a redressal mechanism. Prevention, protection, redressal. So this is the definition of the POSH Act. So first of all, the effort should be to prevent it. How do we prevent it? Through awareness, through training, through raising the finger. How do we protect ourselves? Again, the same mechanisms. We raise a finger, we know our rights. How do we protect ourselves in any given situation? When we are aware of our rights, when we are aware of the rights and duties, then we protect ourselves. And the last is prevention, protection, redressal. If something comes to anybody's notice who is subject to, who is duty bound to you could say to take into consideration the matter and then see and investigate, then in that case you are in fact and justice has been delivered. So in that case you are preventing, protecting, and redressing. Redressal is also important, to accept it, to acknowledge it. Yes, there is a problem. Even in if we talk about in organizations level, if the organization, if the leaders, they propagate this zero tolerance policy within the organization and they take such instances very, very seriously, that itself is a detriment, and that itself is a very well redressal system to create a safe and secured environment.
It was really interesting discussion for today, and I hope our audience will find it insightful. And if our audience have any doubts or comments, let us know in the comments section, or you can also contact our guest via the profile link in the description box, and also follow us for more such sessions in the future. Thank you, goodbye, and take care.